This is my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, I know. That's one we wanted to film just for fun.
Okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, John. This is, you give it to me at like 30 seconds out, and then I have to go do it in the website.
It's nice of you, Beth, to put up the Christmas tree for the show. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, you're welcome. I usually don't get one up, so this is a big deal.
No, I like it. I think it'll help.
We
it'll
are
help the
on.
image.
All right, guys, here we go. Hello, my name is Ruth Nelson, and welcome to this week's Master Coaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz and our after show, Buzz Reaction, both hosted by John Foreman. Our most recent discussions of the 2020 AVCA virtual convention was provided by our Master Coaches, Mick, Bob, and Brian. All are conducting a skill technique session, as well as Mick being featured in one of the learning labs, and Brian is part of the fundraising panel discussion. Check out last week's Buzz by going directly to our Instagram account. And what's up on our news flash? To stay up with spring junior club schedules, head over to jvavolleyball.com. Check out nightcommission.org as they will host their webinar tomorrow, December 3rd, discussing transforming the NCAA Division I model. Charlotte A.D. Hale, who co-chairs the LEAD1, boy is that a mouthful, Name, Image, and Likeness Working Group, states, while we can be afraid of the impact of NIL will have, and we can be afraid of the value of an endorsement deal, the reality is that this is an above-board way for student athletes to capitalize on their opportunities. Please note, you will see a Master Coaches AVCA code 2020 MASTCH displayed on our screen during our show, and we'll provide all the details on this special offer at the end of our show and at the after show Buzz Reaction. Did you know today all of our Hall of Famer coaches, Brian Gimolero, Bob Bertucci, Mick Haley, will be asking our guests to provide information on her book and an overview of her thoughts on the AVCA virtual convention and why it is critical for coaches at all levels to register today. First, let's head over to Austin, Texas, where former Olympic coach Mick Haley will introduce today's special guest. Mick?
Thanks, Ruth, but we're not going to forget that you're a Hall of Famer also. So Ruth Nelson, Hall of Famer, is going to be asking questions also. I'm going to jump right into this with today's guest and welcome back Beth Launeire, head coach at the University of Utah and former AVCA president, which is something a lot of people don't know. They should know. Beth's done more than just turn her program around into a top 10 program, but she's helped lead the Coaches Association, which is very noble, and we all appreciate your efforts there. But I'm going to jump on this new book that you've written, which I find to be extremely enjoyable. I'm going to start with a question, though, about the title. Last week, I'll tell you what the title is, and I have it right here, Stop Competing and Start Winning, The Business of Coaching. And I think it's a book that everybody can get something out of. I've already enjoyed, I'm only about 2/3 of the way through, but I've enjoyed the way you've organized the book and how you can find things in the book when you're looking for special things. But 2 weeks ago, we had Jeff Moore on, who also has a new book out called Strive Together. And in that book, he basically takes a position, we worry too much about winning and we need to start competing. And he talked to us at length about competing and leadership and that sort of thing. So I'm going to just throw this right at you. Your book, Stop Competing and Start Winning, seems to be a contradiction of this other book, but that's only in the title. So how did you come about the title, and what does it really reference here?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for having me. I enjoy being on with all of you. I've known you all for a long time, and I especially appreciate the banter before we go live. It's my favorite part of the show so far. Great question, Mick. I tend to think it's absolutely about winning. We step on the court to compete, and we compete to win. doesn't mean that we focus 100% on winning. If you did that, I agree with your previous guest that you'd be in trouble. The premise of this book truly is about how do you design your program to be designed to win. The subtitle is The Business of Coaching. The idea was to take business principles and apply them to sport. And my co-author started working with my program about 5 years ago, very closely with me, a fan of the program. And he's a high-level business consultant. And the idea here, Mick, is that, when I first went into the Pac-12, as you know, Utah moved in there, I think it's 10, 11 years ago. My staff grew, my support staff grew, I hit the road recruiting, and I was spending all my time managing a program, and I wasn't spending my time doing what I love to do, and that's coaching. And so the idea here is that I hope it will help coaches understand to get get your program designed in a really efficient way that allows them to get back to coaching and get the touch points back with the athletes and not just with meetings with staff and administrators. So the idea is truly, it is about winning, but everyone on this Zoom knows that you can't focus on it. You focus on the things that help you be designed to win. I think, that the book talks about that, and it includes a lot of stories about my program and kind of how we've gotten to where we are now.
Bob, what do you think of that?
Well, actually, Beth, I have a question that relates directly to that. I enjoyed in the beginning of the book, reading about your match against BYU, the perfect match, and got to think about that a little bit. And really, when you look at it, 25-15, 25-15, 25-15, you look at those 15 points, it has to be a situation where the most mistakes that your team would have made was probably 7 or 8 mistakes. How do you get your team to play in a game like volleyball where errors are so critical to the outcome of the game? How do you get them to play and only make 7 or 8 errors in the whole game?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that chapter up. It's definitely kind of a hook chapter to get people interested in the book. And it was about our match against BYU last year and also our run in the tournament, including our match against Stanford. It was very important to me in that chapter to talk about very respectfully how wonderful the BYU program is. And so for us to go down there and play a match like that in the second round was very big for us. But we didn't feel like it was a surprise. Like we had been building talent. Some programs have talent all the time. Some programs have to, get those juniors and seniors on the court. And we'd been building talent, but we'd also been, I'd been working a lot on getting my program really functioning efficiently from a management place and the recruiting place. And we had terrific leadership, maybe one of the biggest things about our team last year. And so, well, of course, it wasn't perfect. It was just a match where we just played fairly flawless. And you're right. I mean, statistically, it was unbelievable to me. I've never been involved with anything like that. But the premise is that, those kind of matches don't just happen. You really, truly need to design your program. It's not just about having one team 1 year. And I've been here for 30 years, and that's always been my belief, is that I was always in this for the long haul. I always wanted a program that I could be proud of, that people would be proud of, that alumni would be proud of, and we try to do things the right way over time. And you add in some nice talent, you add in some leadership, and you add in really going outside of the world of coaching for me. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book was, how valuable it is to go outside of our profession for expertise. And at some point in your coaching profession, and you all know this, it isn't about just the X's and O's. It's truly about being a learner of other things that you can bring into your program to make it better. And so I brought in a business expert to help me manage my program. And, that's why we think, it helped us, win that match and then, just be strong year after year.
Well, how about like in chapter 3, you referred to, the cost of the C performer. Talk a little bit about the C performer and touch on a little bit what that chapter had to say.
Yeah. When we do presentations on these topics, one of the number one things people ask us about is how do you deal with C performers? And we talk about C performers as, maybe they're 5 or 10% of your team, and you could talk to them as, players or as staff. They're the outliers, but they can cost your program a lot. And what coaches ask me a lot about is how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a staff member that's not doing what I need them to do? How do you deal with a staff member that's maybe not loyal? How do you deal with them if they're not as motivated as you are? And there's all kinds of reasons why people might be a C performer. And you have to ask your question, what is truly the cost of the C performer? There's a lot of examples of, it might keep other people from getting in that position, which is a problem. You might have a star that's just ready to take that staff position, or you need to get in on the scholarship, and, that C performer's keeping that from happening. If they're a staff member and you're on a project and they aren't experienced enough, or they don't have confidence, or their interpersonal skills aren't strong enough. And let's use the example of recruiting. If you have a C performer, let's say on your staff, and you're trying to recruit high levels, and as we all know, it takes a lot of interaction among the staff members to figure out how to get a top recruit to your program, there can be a very large cost to your program in that case. So, then you have to ask yourself, how do you help them? How do you mentor them? Because that is part of being a head coach, is mentoring young assistants, or any assistant. And if you do that and you spend time with them, and then you still have problems, then you have a personnel problem. You don't have a talent problem. And so you just need to do something about that. And sometimes that means removing them or whatever that is. And it's when you as a coach and you talk to a business person, it's a lot easier for them to say, yeah, you gotta dismiss them. And we know in the world of athletics, we don't just do that. We don't do that with athletes. We really don't do that with staff. We really try to mentor. And that's, one of the main reasons we're in this profession. So it's an interesting concept. I get asked about it all the time. It's a major topic. And truly one of the reasons I'm passionate about this subject is I think that there's so many great coaches that aren't great managers. They are great on court. And I've seen a lot of really good coaches, not succeed or even lose their jobs. And I just, it bothers me that there's so many great coaches, and it truly has become a business in some ways. And you can talk about it at, Division I level. You can talk about Division II, III. You can talk about high school. When you're dealing with people, coaching is a people business, business is a people business. And so I do think there's kind of tools and concepts for any level in this book.
Well, in chapter 4, you talked a little bit about delegation of duties, and you kind of started to touch on that a little bit. Of course, I seem like I don't know if I'm a very good manager, because I'm basically in positions where I'm doing everything myself. Mm-hmm. But how about just, talking about that if you have a full staff and delegation?
Yeah, that's actually the thing that got me started with this from the beginning. I went to Leo Hoff, and a fan of ours, and I said, this is your expertise. Talk to me about managing my program. And he goes, oh, that's easy. I go, oh, okay. And he said, you just have to know what the golden rule is. And I said, what's that? He said, the golden rule of delegation is that anything that can be delegated must be delegated. And I said, okay, yeah, that sounds great, and I probably didn't have much staff back then either. And, but I kept going back to him because it was intriguing to me. And I kept going back and I kept going back. And then the depth of that comment is really what led to this book. And what I've learned is whether you have a large staff or whether you have nobody behind you or below you, you have to figure out what is important that you spend your time on. Your value and your time and is a huge commodity. And what is it that only you can do that nobody else can do? And that's the things that you need to spend your time on. So there's a tool called above the line, below the line. What are the things that merit your attention and time? And if it doesn't fall above that line, then you're not doing it. You're delegating it to someone else. And if you don't have someone to delegate it to, maybe you don't do it because maybe it's not important. And I use the story in the book about Dora Anai. She was a wonderful player for us from Hawaii, our first team All-American. And as it was coming closer to signing date of her senior year, I just felt like I wanted another touch point with her. And we played BYU on Friday, and I think we were opening up Pac-12 on Wednesday. And I try to clear my schedule that weekend so I can take a little breather after preseason. But I decided to go out and do a home visit with Adora. And yes, it was in Hawaii, so that was wonderful. But it's a 5-6 hour flight and wasn't easy. Turned it over, had a wonderful 2-hour meeting with her family visit, and came home. And you'd argue that took a tremendous amount of time and effort to go do that, but no one else could do it. And the paybacks for me in my program were absolutely huge, 10, 20, 30 fold. And so again, if you can delegate the things that others can do, so it frees you up to do the things that only you can do, is probably the biggest thing that I've learned has helped me a ton. And you may not be able to, you have to be okay with someone that you delegate something to. They maybe only do it about 80% of how you might want it done. And that's the worst thing. The worst thing you can say in delegation is like, well, I'm just going to do it myself because I can do it better. Of course you can do it better. You were hired, because of your talents and as a head coach. But if you're really going to truly kind of get these economies of scale thing going, you need to delegate. You need to invest in the delegation time and let them do their job so you can do the other things that count.
That's great. I mean, I think whether you're a high school coach by yourself or a college coach like I am right now by myself, I mean, that concept really, rings true. And of course, with a full staff, it becomes really critical. I think Brian probably has a couple of questions he'd like to ask you also.
Yeah, I wish you were around a long time ago. My assistants were very good at pretending they couldn't do things, so they gave them back to me, so that they delegated more to me. Now, I'm sure they wouldn't see it that way, but I think a lot of that was true. Where were you? You're 3 years late. I retired 3 years ago. I needed you. Where was this book?
Hey, it was just being formulated,
Yeah. And why did you, as touched on it, but why, Beth, why did you ultimately write it? We're not on the bestseller list, so you're not going to get rich. So why did you, you are on the MasterCoaches bestseller list. I want you to know. But why did you write it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like I said, I don't get asked how to block, how I teach blocking. I get asked how I manage my staff more than anything, by far. And, I have a business degree in economics, and I come from a family of small business owners. And it's just become a bit of a passion. I have always felt strongly about giving back to the sport, and anything that I learn, I feel can probably benefit others. And I don't have any problem with sharing things that have helped me move in my profession to help others become, good coaches and grow as coaches. And I just think if you pride yourself on being a kind of a lifelong learner, which, one of the things about being at Utah for 30 years is this allowed me to explore a lot of different things. It's allowed me to spend time as the AVCA president on the board. And it's allowed me to do a lot of things with USA Volleyball. And it's allowing me this because I'm not spending time moving jobs and moving, my home. And so I'm always intrigued by things that can help me continue to learn and grow as a coach. And then I just believe in sharing and, helping others and helping, this is such a great profession that we have, and it's such a great sport. And to be honest, it doesn't matter what sport to me, the profession of coaching is what it's about. So yeah, I think that's my reason.
What if there was one thing, and I know this is the impossible question, but if there was one thing that you want people when they're done to realize or to understand, coaches understand, or parents or players or whomever reads the book, what would that be?
That I think we have to not get mired in the muck of everything that goes on around coaching, that we need to stay true to being coaches. It's really easy to get caught into everything that has to do with recruiting, which is not on-court coaching. That is not the development of talent. The budgetary and marketing. And if you're, high school, how do I get people in the stands? How do I do with parents? There's tools that can help with those kind of things. There's concepts and tools that if you incorporate in your program, truly will allow you to get back to having the touch points with the athletes and training and coaching, and not just on court, developing them as people and their career development and their personal development. That there are ways to get around that. And I think that's probably, maybe one of the biggest challenges that we have as coaches.
Do you have your book with you right now?
I've got about 50 right here.
Yeah, hold it up so the audience and I can see it. And we're going to ask you twice. Ruth's going to ask you again. But how do we buy this book?
We said from the beginning we were going to do it right. So we self-published, but we have it on Amazon. We did a contest for the cover. We had a graphic designer. We had about 60 entries. We had about 50 people vote on it. It was pretty cool. But it's on Amazon. It's in paperback, hardback, Kindle, and within a week it's going to be on audio. We've hired someone to read the book, and I know, like we talked about before we came on air, a lot of coaches don't read. I get it. It's hard to get it. When I was the president of the AVCA, it's hard to get, a coach to read an email, and then I write a book and expect them to read it. But it's got a good table of content, so you can refer to things very easily. And then we have the audio book coming if people would prefer that. So.
I made a major mistake when I came out with a book and I put my picture on it, not my idea. That was a major mistake because you get older, and that picture is a little too young, on that book.
Oh, I think that's the perfect reason to put the book on it, or the picture on. I'm never going to age.
You might be right. I'm going to turn this over to somebody much more qualified in Ruth.
Oh, come on, Brian. Okay, first, I love being last because I get to listen to everybody else's. Brian has a degree in economics, a bachelor's and a master's, so you guys have something very in common.
That doesn't mean I know anything about economics.
Okay, second, we didn't get to vote on the cover, MasterCoaches. You forgot about us.
You're right.
All right, so the next book, put us on the list to be able to vote. And probably more than anything, Bob, what he said is not correct. He is not alone. He has 3 of us.
That's right.
We are volunteer assistants. And it's like, hey, I remember one time one of the guys called and says, Ruth, I know you were the first person that got fired, but I got fired before you. And I said, you didn't get fired. You were a volunteer. So Bob, no firing us. At all. Okay, Beth, now to my questions. There's something that is really dear to all of our hearts, and that is diversity. And not only do you address that in your book, but in the recruiting side, but diversity in your staff, but you have been part of the Pac-12 Diversity Mentorship Program. Could you explain to our viewers what that is? Because there's now a diversity commission now that the AVCA has just announced as of yesterday, which Brian and I are both advisors on that. But what is that Pac-12? Why is it a Pac-12 diversity mentorship program?
Well, yeah, great question. And, you know, in the book, we talk about diversity in a lot of ways. We talk about, you know, diversity in thoughts, beliefs, experiences, and that you don't really want to hire someone just like you, because that would be, number one, boring. And number two, you want people to challenge you and to come from different experiences. I can tell you, and Kevin Hambley and I were on this call, I don't know, a few months ago, and we were in the doldrums of summer and COVID, and the Pac-12 coaches got on a call every single week, just bar none. And even if we didn't really have much to talk about, I really do think it became a therapy session for us. We all talked about what was going on our own campuses. It was really good. And we just, you know, when the racial issues started coming up in our country, we started talking about it, and it was bothering all of us. And I will give really great credit to Kevin Hambley and Matt Ulmer from Oregon. They really took the reins on this and ran with it. And we talked about how wonderful the AVCA Minority Coaches Program is. And, you know, I've donated to that for many years for them to attend the convention. But we felt like there was just more that we could do. And we wanted to have a program where we could get to know the minority coaches at a deeper level. And so we all donated personal money. We've got the Pac-12 now behind us, and we also have some sponsorship money as well. And the concept is that we pick 6 coaches a year, and we really get to know them, that we spend time on Zooms with them as it is now. We hope to bring them to campus at least, you know, twice a year. We're going to give them access to administrators on our campuses. And we're going to, you know, pay for them to attend the convention. And just, you know, we felt like we wanted to actually develop relationships with, and sometimes that's hard actually just at the convention. So we wanted it to be a year-long program, and we're really excited about it and really proud of it. And people can apply at, I believe it's diversitymentorship.org, okay. I believe is the website. Very proud of it. And, you know, we just hope that we need to move the dial on minorities in our coaching profession. We absolutely need to move the dial. We can't just talk about it.
That's fantastic. And I also see that a lot of other conferences are doing something similar, but I wanted to address that with you. The other thing, in chapter 5, you talk about quality commitments to growing your staff. And your number 1 is attend the AVCA. Why is that such a priority for you?
I've been coaching for 35 years, and I've never missed a convention. You know, Mick remembers I came right into the Pac-12 meetings, and I swore I wasn't going to say much the first year, but I started getting fired up because some coaches didn't attend the convention, and I said something. And I always just gained so much from it, whether it's the the seminars or meeting people at the marketplace, meeting people in the hotel lobby and bar. I mean, I don't care where you are, you're networking with other people of like minds. And, one of my favorite things was always to attend the awards, the Hall of Fame inductees, because you got to learn a lot about the history of the sport.
You mean about the old people?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So with my players, I'm one of the things that we talk about in the books, like if I delegate something and I'm going to tell you kind of the things that I want you to do, but you also have to agree to do them. And that's what a quality commitment is. And so with the AVCA convention, it's like, I'm not going to pay for you to just go hang out and have a good time, at the Wednesday night party. You really need to attend all the sessions and you need to get the early bird special and do all these things. And that's what a quality commitment is. But the convention to me is, I'll segue into this year's. I'm so excited about this year's convention. I think that there's amazing presenters. It does become, when you do start getting on a lot of committees and you attend banquets and stuff like that, it actually becomes a little bit difficult to get to some of the seminars and some of the sessions at the convention, where this year I think it's going to be great because you can sit at your computer all day long and listen to some of just the most, top coaches from every level, Division I and high school. So I've already gone through and looked at the sessions I want to attend, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay, so we're running a little bit late on time. Just make sure you put down the 3 master coaches presentations you're going to attend. For all the viewers, we're going to go to Mick here, but all the viewers, stop competing and start winning. The Business of Coaching is Beth's new book. Okay, Mick, to you.
Hey, next week, and Beth, you'll appreciate this. Next week, we're having Keegan Cook, the incoming new president to the AVCA as head coach of the University of Washington, and outgoing president Mark Rosen on, and I get to interview them. I was the first president of the Collegiate Volleyball Coaches Association, so the 4 of us are past presidents here, or Keegan coming in will be a past president in a couple of years. So we're going to have them on. We're going to talk about what it means to give back to your sport. It goes right along with your book, Beth, because how do you become the president of the Volleyball Coaches Association and still coach your team and have your athletic director looking at you like, why aren't you winning the national championship 5 years in a row? So it's certainly apropos, and you're right about the convention. It is going to be one of the best ever, and we want to support that. So Ruth, that's what we're doing next week. Back to you to close up here. Thanks,
Guess
Beth.
what, Beth? Since we're marketing your book, you get to listen to our marketing this time. You don't get to bail out on us because we know you're not back on the court. All right. Book your fall virtual clinics today for your team, for you, and your coaches. Please head over to our Instagram account, VB Master Coaches, and click on our bio and click on the virtual clinic link, or you may scan our QR code. Our Wednesday's weekly buzz shows are on YouTube, and you may access these by going directly to our Instagram account. Click on the link in our bio and enjoy listening to leaders in our sport like Beth address current issues and trends. Follow us on Facebook at Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram and Twitter, VB Master Coaches. A special shout out to our partners, SNA Sports and Baden Sports. You may still register for the AVCA 2020 virtual convention by using the code 2020 MASTCH, which you will receive an AVCA member early bird rate of $249, which is $50 savings for AVCA members and $150 savings for non-members. This will provide you over 100 hours of virtual sessions. Sign up today by going to avcaconvention.org and be sure to put in your 2020 MASTCH code for your discounted rate. Be sure on Friday that you join us for Friday, December 4th, the Master Coaches Friday Night Live with Todos Somos Volleyball, TSV, which will be aired on Facebook Live to 17 countries, and we're translating from English to Spanish and Spanish to English. Stay on Facebook Live after our host closes our show today and join our Master Coaches Buzz Reaction for an opportunity to hear and engage in our most recent talks. Now, let's head over to John Foreman, who will update us on his podcast series. John?
Thanks, Ruth. Thanks for hanging out, Beth. Appreciate it. Hopefully I'll get a chance to do a review of the book pretty soon. Coming up on the podcast, I've actually got a 2-part series with Mark Lebedew and another Hall of Famer, Sue Gazansky, talking about some of the history of volleyball. From a rules perspective, it touches on a whole lot of different things because it's just a conversation and it wanders all over the place. But it was a lot of fun, and it's always fun having those two together. So that's coming up. The patrons have already got the first episode. The public will get it. Whoops, almost pulled the computer over. The public will get it this coming Sunday, and then the Sunday following leading into the AVCA. So that's it on my end. Appreciate it.